You don't deserve any of this. My mother-in-law, Sarah, shouted as she threw all my clothes, cosmetics, bags, shoes, and accessories into a pile. She stood with her back to the empty closet, staring up. You married into my family, right? And yet you keep wearing all these fancy clothes. How many times have I told you to dress more modestly? You need to be punished, she continued. Take off your clothes and kneel on the floor in just your underwear. I didn't have a choice, so I took off my clothes and knelt on the cold floor, shivering, as she yelled at me, her face red with anger. I was about to apologize when I heard a voice from the door. I'm home. What? My father-in-law, Mark, had unexpectedly come home early. He saw me kneeling in my underwear and stared in shock. What's going on here? He asked, his voice full of disbelief. Mark turned to Sarah, shaking his head in disbelief, and shouted at her. My name is Emma, I'm 35 years old and a housewife. My husband, Ben, and I live in a rented apartment on the outskirts of the city. I met him through a mutual friend 5 years ago, and we dated for a while, broke up, but then got back together and got married last year. He's 2 years older than me and has a job that requires him to travel often, sometimes being gone for half the month. I had planned to keep working after our marriage, but Ben really wanted me to stay home. I love fashion and beauty, as I used to work in the fashion industry. Even though I don't work anymore, I still enjoy researching styles and creating new looks that fit my age. Dressing up makes me happy, boosts my mood, and gives me confidence. Before we got married, Ben used to praise me for my style. He'd always notice when I wore something new or changed my hairstyle, and I loved how kind and attentive he was. His parents were also nice to me. We lived in the same neighborhood and would occasionally have dinner or go on trips together. They were always considerate of us as newlyweds, giving us space but also being supportive. I got married later than my friends, but I was happy with the family I married into. One day, both Ben's parents got sick at the same time. They said it was just a cold, but since they were over 70, I worried it might be something worse. I wasn't the only one concerned, Ben was too. So, I started going back and forth between our place and theirs to help them get better. I'm really sorry for the trouble, they told me. It must be exhausting for you to take care of us with everything else you have to do. Don't worry about it, I replied. Ben and I just want you both to feel better soon. It's not a problem at all. It was no trouble at all. Their house was only a 10-minute walk away, and I just made extra food when I was preparing dinner for Ben and me. You're so kind and reliable, Ben's dad said. It would be perfect if you and Ben moved in with us. Sarah, his wife, quickly scolded him. Don't say things like that. They just got married. Of course, they want to live alone, right, Emma? I was put on the spot, but I smiled and didn't say much. While I didn't love the idea, I didn't mind it either. I had lost my parents when I was young and had been raised by my grandparents, so I longed for a family connection. If living with Ben's parents made them feel more secure, I was open to the idea. When Ben came home that night, I brought up the idea of moving in with his parents. To my surprise, he agreed right away. I think it's a great idea, he said. They're getting older, and it'll put my mind at ease knowing you're with them. I also worry about you being alone when I'm away. If the three of you are together, I won't have to worry. The next day, we made plans to move. When we told Ben's parents, they were thrilled. They quickly prepared a room for us and made sure everything was ready for our move. We planned to move in after our lease ended in a month. That month passed quickly, and I said goodbye to my neighbors. Welcome, Emma and Ben, we're so happy to have you here. Ben's parents greeted us on moving day. Thank you, Sarah and Mark. I'm happy to help with anything you need, I said. Ben added, and I'll do my best to help out too. Oh, by the way, I have a business trip in a couple of days. It'll be for 3 weeks this time. So, take care of Emma, Mom. We decided to celebrate our first day together with pizza and wine, and it was a great start. A few days later, Ben left for his trip. Normally, I'd feel lonely when he was away, but this time, I wasn't alone, his parents were with me. I decided to get to work right away and started doing my chores enthusiastically. I ran the washing machine first and vacuumed the floors. Just then, Sarah came home, while Mark was in his room reading a book. Hi, Sarah, how's it going? After I finish with the laundry, I'll make some lunch. What would you like to eat? I asked. Sarah looked around the room, then spoke up. Emma, this cleaning isn't good enough. You're a housewife, so you can't be lazy. If you can't do better, you're a failure. I was shocked by her harsh tone. I had never heard her speak like that before, and I didn't know what to say. She gave me a disappointed look and then sat on the sofa to watch TV. After that, her behavior completely changed. She started watching how I cooked and cleaned, criticizing me with every little thing. She lectured me on her idea of what a wife should be like. Her usually kind and warm personality became tense and intimidating. I thought I might have upset her, but when Mark was around, she went back to being sweet again. I noticed she changed depending on who was around, which made me suspect she was bullying me. My suspicions were confirmed one morning. I woke up, opened my closet, and realized a few of my favorite dresses were missing, along with a bunch of makeup I always used. I always kept them in the same place, and I had never taken them anywhere else. When I asked Sarah if she had seen them, she gave me a shocking answer. "Sarah, have you seen my dresses and makeup? They're gone." "Oh, yes, I threw them all away. And I sold some of your accessories too. I only got a couple of bucks for them though. Do you have a problem with that? Why did you do that without asking me?" I asked, upset. She just shook her head and gave me a cold stare. "You're just a housewife here. You don't need to care about fashion. You shouldn't wear those flashy clothes. You need to dress more modestly, understood?" she snapped. "Now go make breakfast," she ordered, before walking out of the room. Those dresses were my favorite ones I bought with my own money when I was single. It was hard to get over losing them, but I had to live with her for a long time, so I decided to just play along. I changed into the plainest shirt and jeans I had and went to the kitchen to make breakfast. Sarah nodded in approval when she saw me. From that day, she started giving me more tasks to do, like taking care of the garden, washing the car, and going shopping with her. I didn't mind helping, but the way she treated me made it hard. I felt frustrated and annoyed. I decided to play along and pretend to obey Sarah, but secretly, I used my savings to buy new clothes and cosmetics from my favorite brand, knowing that Sarah would throw them away again if she found them. I hid everything in a box under the bed. It had been 3 weeks since Mark left, and he was finally coming home that night. I was so excited and decided to pick him up from the station and go for dinner. I asked Sarah for permission. "Is it okay if Mark and I go out for dinner tonight? Should I prepare something for you before I go?" I asked. "That's a good idea. You should go. No need to make anything for me. It'd be nice to have something other than your cooking once in a while," she said. There was a hint of sarcasm in her voice, but I was still happy that she agreed. I quickly got ready, as it had been a while since we had a date night. I wore a new dress I had bought just for this occasion. I was excited and ready to leave, making sure Sarah didn't see me. I hadn't heard Mark's voice, so I figured he was out eating. I was thrilled as I headed to the station to meet Mark. When I saw him in the crowd, I waved to get his attention. He came running over and smiled at me. It made me so happy when he complimented my new outfit like he used to do. "Hi, honey, how was your trip? What do you want for dinner?" I asked. But then his face dropped, and he seemed upset. "What on earth are you wearing?" he asked, frowning. "I bought it recently. Don't you like it?" I said, excited about my dress, but he didn't seem pleased. "I'm asking why you're dressed like that. Didn't my mom tell you to dress modestly? She said you're just a housewife, so act like one," he yelled. I was taken aback. "But you used to compliment my outfits before we were married," I said, confused. Mark sighed in frustration. "That was before. Now you're my wife. Things are different now. You married into my family, so you need to act and look like it," he said. I realized then that Sarah had thrown out my clothes at his request. I still didn't understand why, but I saw now that her behavior had a reason. Feeling upset, I stayed quiet, and he grabbed my arm. "Let's go home. We need to talk about how a wife should behave," he said. I didn't want to cause a scene in public, so I followed him quietly. I briefly thought about leaving, but I didn't have a job, and the money I had saved wouldn't be enough to support me, so I decided to wait it out. We drove home in silence. When we got there, Sarah was in the living room holding a big blue garbage bag. I saw that it was full of my clothes, makeup, shoes, and accessories. I ran to my closet, but it was completely empty. My new clothes I had hidden were gone too. Even my shoes were missing. "I can't trust you," Sarah said coldly. "This is a punishment for not obeying us. You can't dress like that anymore. Just wear your underwear." That was too much. I couldn't accept it. In a burst of anger, I grabbed the garbage bag from Sarah's hands. Mark yelled at me in rage. "Hey, don't be rough with her. Who's paying for everything here? If you keep this up, I'll kick you out," he shouted. I had no words to reply. It was true that Mark took care of me, but Sarah had gone too far. Take all your clothes off and get on your knees. If you apologize, we'll go easy on you, Mark ordered. I didn't have any other choice. I reluctantly took off my clothes and knelt down on the cold floor. As I was about to apologize, Mark's brother, Luke, came home early. He froze when he saw the situation and asked, "Rachel, why are you almost naked?" "Because I don't deserve clothes," I said, not knowing what else to say. Luke looked confused. "What? You know she's my wife. She needs to learn her place. Those fancy clothes are a problem," Mark said. "That's enough," Luke said loudly. He covered me with his jacket and stood up to defend me, blocking me from Sarah and Mark. "What do you think you're doing? This isn't a lesson in life. It's abuse. I'm done with both of you. I want a divorce from you too. Josh, don't ever come back here," Luke shouted. Both Sarah and Mark were shocked. They thought Luke would side with them, but they were wrong. "Why divorce? No, please don't leave me. I don't know how to live without you. I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Please forgive me," Josh begged. "Dad, do you really want to break up our family? Please, I'll apologize," Sarah added. Luke shook his head in disgust. "You're apologizing to the wrong person," he said, before turning to me. Both Sarah and Mark knelt in front of me, apologizing. I wasn't sure I could forgive them, even if I can't make a living on my own. "Living with you is 100 times worse," I said. They both started to panic, saying, "Oh no," but with Luke's help, I was able to file for a divorce. He even offered me financial support, which I initially refused, but eventually accepted when he insisted. In the end, Luke and Sarah also divorced, and they sold the house. Luke planned to move to a rural area and live peacefully. Sarah was left without anything. She tried to move in with Josh, but Luke didn't allow it. Thinking they might team up to cause more trouble, Sarah turned to her relatives, but her abusive behavior had become known, and they didn't want anything to do with her. Now, she lives alone, working day by day in a small apartment. It must be hard for her after living a comfortable life. As for Josh, who was disowned by Luke, he started looking for a new wife. This time, he tried to teach every woman he met how a wife should dress, but no one was interested. He now lives alone, only going between work and home. No woman will ever accept his way of thinking. I wondered when he would realize that. With the money Luke gave me, I moved far away and found a similar job to the one I used to have. It's not a luxurious life, but I'm happy. Now I dress the way I want. With money I earned myself. I'm free and won't let anyone control my life again.